Today's episode of Pool Magazine podcast is proudly sponsored by the PSP Deck Expo. The International Pool Spa Patio Expo, co-located with Deck Expo, is where all segments of the industry gather to stay well-informed of the latest trends, market directions, and technology. Come for the 135,000 plus square feet of products, suppliers, and education. And stay longer for networking, special events, and experiences. This year's Expo in Dallas will be held from November 9th through November 14th. To learn more about attending the PSP Deck Expo, visit us on the web at www.poolspapatio.com.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Pool Magazine podcast. I'm your host, Joe Trusty, editor of Pool Magazine, and today I'm chatting with Peter Davidson and Phil Deturnion of Riverflow by Current Systems. They're manufacturers of the world's most popular current system for lazy rivers, adventure pools, and swim-in-place systems. Guys, it's a pleasure to have you with us today on the show.
Hi, Joe. Good to hear you.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for getting us on this. I appreciate it.
Pleasure to have you guys with us. Listen, before we dive headfirst into our conversation, I thought a good starting point for today's discussion would be if you both just introduced yourselves, gave us some background as to what you guys do and what Current Systems is all about.
Okay, Peter here. Yeah, I patented this pump back in the late 80s under a different brand name, but the axial flow pump and technology and accessories have moved forward for this past 30 years or so. We started off with the application being countercurrent swimming and have moved into the lazy river application over the last 10 or 12 years in both residential and commercial. We manufacture the pumps and the associated equipment in Ventura, California, and we ship to domestic and international markets, ranging from residential installations for countercurrent swimming or residential lazy rivers, adventure combination pools, on up to international water parks and resort hotels. So that's it for me. You want to go, Phil?
Sure. So this is Phil Deturnion, Vice President, Current Systems. The story with me and Peter started 20 years ago. And a great story at that. We wanted to take one of our swimming pools in Florida and turn it into a swimming place. And oh my gosh, it exceeded our expectations. And I called Peter and said, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Let's do it." And so 20 years later, here we are, leaders in the industry for applications for swimming, applications for lazy rivers, residential, commercial, adventure pools, all over the world. And then some specialty projects that we've done that have allowed us to be, again, like I said, the leaders in the industry for moving water.
Yeah, I think you guys have been on my radar for a very long time, but over the past decade, Riverflow has become kind of the definitive solution for builders looking to add some kind of current system to their pools. Probably the first exposure I had with your product was a project my friend Scott Walk used a Riverflow system to build an over-the-top lazy river that was highlighted on Pool Kings.
Yeah, I worked with Scott on that project out of, I believe it was somewhere out of rural Atlanta in Georgia, and it really turned out great. The client was extremely pleased with what they ended up getting.
Absolutely. I mean, really, what's been the foundational secret of your guys' success, and why has Riverflow become the go-to source for builders looking to do a lazy river now?
Peter, I'm going to let you talk to what we do that's so different from everybody else.
Well, I think a couple things. One thing that we do is that the product that we produce, the 22 to 2400 GPM pump, is pretty much the only one in the industry capable of that kind of flow rate and very suitable for the applications that it's used for in countercurrent swimming and creating current lazy rivers. Probably one of the biggest assets is, I think, first, our accessibility by builders and engineers and architects and designers for technical hydraulic help on the project. We use a sophisticated engineering software, computational fluid dynamic product that illustrates velocities, pressures, streamlines, vectoring within the lazy rivers and even within swim-in-place pools. So we can bring the client, the contractor, the designer, whoever else, and us all on the same page with a visualization of what the current is actually going to be doing within that geometry. So I think that's something that we alone do, certainly within the residential market, And it really helps the end user communicate what they want to happen, and then they can see what will happen with that design and maybe have an opportunity to make some geometry changes to accomplish what they want to experience in that moving water.
Yeah, to add to that, and one of the things that what Peter created some 25, 30 years ago was a piece of equipment that at the end of everything being installed, the builder and the homeowner and the client come back and they say, I thought it was going to be noisy. It is so quiet. And it's because of that type of technology of that particular pump that Peter invented that allows us to move that much water without having all that noisy pump noise that people are so accustomed to. The contractors and everyone are just so pleased to know that that piece of equipment doesn't put out the kind of noise that other pumps that they're used to are creating.
Sure, it detracts from the experience. And I think you guys really hit the nail on the head with your product. I've seen it used a few different ways to do sports pools and swim current going against you, which is great for resistance training. I've also seen it used in a new category, which you guys pretty much invented, called adventure pools. And I was hoping that you guys could speak with us a little bit more about that.
So one of those applications is the clients that are building these resort type products in their backyard have gone to some resort experience somewhere around the world, and they've experienced this moving water that moves faster than just a lazy river. And so we've incorporated that current so that when the kid comes off a slide or is jumping off of a water structure or jumping rocks into the pool, the event doesn't end. And the kids are just screaming and laughing the whole time while they're getting moved around in this current. And it's just created a joy that the pool becomes the pool of choice in the neighborhood because it has that extra oomph and exciting activity.
My builder friends were just asking me the other day on a Facebook group about a product that would help create a swim lane for resistance training and was asking for recommendations. And I recommended Riverflow, of course. I mean, it's a powerful pump in comparison to some of the other products on the market. It's also flush mount to the wall, which is really aesthetically a big deal with builders. I mean, can you talk about the design of the Riverflow current system a bit and what differentiates it so far as the look of the product?
Yeah, what you mentioned, the design criteria, were big parts of the design criteria with this system was to make it flush mount, inobtrusive, and quiet. So we check those boxes. And we also make a variety of nozzles to actually pinpoint the application for spreading current out more quickly, for using it as a water curtain to corral or separate static from moving water in the same body of water. So we've kind of, along the way, we've tailored various nozzles for propulsion to suit that application just perfectly. So that's, I think, another one of the design criteria that's sort of evolved over time. The pump hasn't changed all that much, but certainly the nozzles have. So we're able to really dial in on and meet the expectations for the current.
Yeah, and Joe, one of the trends that's happening is that there's an awful lot of these new communities that are being built across the country. And one of the assets that everybody looks for is that amenity inclusion that comes with their home that they're buying into a community. One particular builder in San Antonio, Texas, who's doing almost 5,000 homes, made a point to make sure that they had a lazy river in the project for their residents to enjoy. And they opted for the whitewater nozzle design to create the excitement. And he says in all the years he's done HOAs and created the amenities for people, this particular lazy river is 5 stars.
I know that there's a lot of builders who follow and support the brand and are consumers on the residential side, but Riverflow is often the go-to product for so many different commercial projects we see nowadays. I know I've seen your product used in a lot of different hotel, resort, lazy rivers. I see it being built now, and I was hoping that you could talk to us about that aspect of your business.
Well, there was a list of commercial and hotel projects that have been done. There are several engineering firms in the United States that are consulting and helping in all these designs that are being created. And there's a slew of them that we've been so successful with. Hyatt in Bonita Springs, Florida is one of them. There are several other in this great state of Texas. It's just all over the country. And it's made the hotel experience really pleasant because again, that's what the families are going for.
As families get more mobile and are able to take more exotic holidays, vacations at some high-end resorts, many of them come back home with their kids as well, wanting to have that experience in their backyard. So they'll bring in one of the incredible designers and architects, builders that we have in our industry that are able to take, for example, some photos of a Maui resort, lazy river, and scale it down and present it for a client for a build out in their backyard. So our exposure has been, our growing piece of this market has been a result of customers out experiencing kind of higher end environments. And particularly during COVID, it was apparent that there was a lot of home improvement going on. And we benefited from that end of it. On the international side, some of the top engineering firms around the world often spec us into the larger jobs, and we consult with them and work with design geometry and their current expectations, velocities, whatnot. We've had successful relationships and ongoing on some of these larger resort and water park projects.
Well, you were just hitting on that, and I wanted to talk to you about that for sure, because I know that you guys did Typhoon, Texas. And as far as the international side, I know one project you did was Aquanic, the Nickelodeon resort at the Riviera Maya in Cancun, are two really big water parks where Riverflow was used. Can you talk to us a little bit about those two projects?
So Typhoon, Texas, again, is rated as one of the top water parks in the United States. Their design team, KW Dalton, went ahead and created a tremendous project in construction, and also CT Brannon. And they spec'd us into that project, and they've had nothing but just positive results for all the years. And the reliability of our product to continue to function the way it does, the way it was designed to last a very, very long time. We've been very, very successful with that project, and they still are listed as one of the top parks. Nickelodeon actually got branched off from one of the ones we did years ago called June Gala, that was featured by our designer WTI. They were also the design team for Nickelodeon, and that particular project was franchised as an actual Nickelodeon, so the slime factor was involved in that one. But yes, we were able to deliver on that one. That was a two-part lazy river. One was the lazy side, and one was a little more faster moving water. Both very successful projects.
Yeah, so the Jungala project in Cancun, where the river was built prior to us being brought in for a propulsion solution, I believe the theoretical propulsion requirement was very similar to what we had suggested. But the means to provide that propulsion by, I think, 1140 horsepower vertical turbine pumps was the alternative to our 43 10-horse Riverflow pumps. We were able to reduce the power requirement, electrical consumption, by 40% to achieve the same flow rate as the 40 horsepower pumps. So the engineers and designers on this project were delighted to make a savings in equipment cost, installation cost, and power consumption during operation.
You guys did one in Dubai too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, that was Atlantis Phase 3, a very, very successful project that was designed and created by WTI. Again, we've been very successful with those. Margaritaville in Nassau, Bahamas. Peter can talk to some of those.
Yeah, we're working on a real interesting project now in Belgium, where it's a massive indoor, kind of a small city almost, that's a zoo. And the lazy river, the way people experience the zoo is to get in the lazy river and walk the lazy river through the various animal environments. It's all indoors, and this has been a challenging project, a lot of fun. I look forward to going over there for the preliminary installation meetings in the next couple of months. We've had some other applications that are a little unusual, but catching on. One is for horse training. We just started up another horse training and rehab facility in Texas where we create basically moving water in an oval shaped water course that has dividers in it that move along with the current, and they can train and rehab multiple horses at the same time, walking them against the current in a more or less neutral, buoyant environment so they're not exacerbating whatever injuries they're being treated for. One of my favorites was at the Clearwater Aquarium Marine Rescue Center in Clearwater, Florida, where we had the opportunity to work with Winter, the Disney dolphin that had the prosthetic tail. And we contributed some pumps to that facility and worked closely with the trainers and the staff and owners there to create the first moving water environment for dolphins in captivity and rehab and whatnot. That was a really enriching experience to get to know the dolphins and to share the excitement with the trainers for the rehab value that was associated with moving water rather than static water for those critters.
Well, you guys are involved with a lot of different aspects of the industry. I mean, animal habitats is certainly a new segment. I wasn't even really aware that you guys had as part of the different verticals you service, but you're also in resorts and rental properties and planned communities and RV parks. I mean, you guys are really spread all over the map on the commercial side, right?
Yes, we are. In fact, one of the moving trends is that a lot of the KOAs are converting their sites to be able to have these 200 to 300 foot long lazy rivers to further attract the people that are RVing across the country. And we're also included in some of these very nice RV parks that, again, have 400 to 600 foot long lazy rivers. Just awesome.
I mean, on the residential side, you guys are the clear leaders, but there are a variety of different products out there for use in the commercial sector. What is the main value prop of using Riverflow in commercial applications?
Well, in the commercial applications, basically the larger lazy rivers, we sort of introduced a method of providing propulsion for these rivers we termed distributed pumping. And in the earlier years of lazy rivers, the propulsion was normally provided by some extremely large and expensive vertical turbine pumps or huge in-suction centrifugals, maybe in the 50 to 75 horsepower range, located in a very serious mechanical equipment room somewhere on the property. And then from that, there was miles, literally miles of piping manifolding down to whatever the nozzle size is to power the river. So as an alternative to that, we put our small, quiet pumps distributed along the river at intervals that are appropriate for creating the kind of propulsion required. If one or two or three of our systems is down for maintenance or whatever, the river still continues to run. Whereas if the reliance is on a single or multiple very large, high-powered pumps in a remote equipment room, when that pump goes down, the river goes down. And so the distributed pumping has been well received internationally and domestically. And so it's kind of a different take on getting a similar result. The practicality is there's very little plumbing involved. It's very easy to isolate or service, if required, any of these systems. So downtime really is eliminated for the river. We had a Disney project where they actually had some pumping systems that weren't able to move the river. The original river propulsion design was in larger pumps in a remote equipment room. And during construction, they had some changes where they put some new buildings or structures or footings or obstacles between those pumps and the river so that the rerouting of the pumps, because of the additional losses for the extended plumbing, rendered the river kind of useless in terms of current. So they called us and we went over and had a meeting, got in the river, took some measurements, and proposed that we do these coffer dams to isolate an area of the river where they could install one of our systems, suction and return, and then trenched out a little ways and put the pump in. One by one went around the river, removing the old propulsion system, plumbing, dropping in the Riverflow system, buttoning it back up, and one by one went around the river. I think there were 7 total pumps that we put in there. And the whole time the river was able to stay open. There were hotel guests floating around the river while their construction was going on to upgrade the system. So there are some benefits. Cost is a big benefit. Variable speed is a big benefit because they can turn up or down the various pumps at different times of the day to accommodate whatever velocities are required for the group that's in the river. They can save a lot of money over time by reducing the input power to suit the needs of the river rather than running it full blast all the time. So those are a few things that kind of set us apart.
Dad, there's another really great story and we've had lots of these experiences, but one particular one is when we were challenged at a large engineering meeting to go ahead and take a project that was going to be the longest lazy river in Latin America. And we were asked to sit down and help power it. Peter, you want to talk to that?
Yeah, so we were at WTI and is it Wisconsin or?
Yeah, Wisconsin. Yeah.
They're one of the major engineering firms for the larger projects around the world. And there had been a lazy river built in Cancun and with no provisions for propulsion. There were no inlets, no outlets, no pumps. It was just they poured the shell in the jungle, and then for I don't know what exact reasons it was abandoned or put on hold for a while, and WTI was tasked with bringing it to life. So we were at a meeting with them, and they said, we got this project that your pumps might work for. So they gave us a large table and a very large scale printout of the lazy river and said, well, where would you put your pumps and how many would it take? So Phil and I sat down, and all the engineers left and left Phil and I alone in this room. And we got yellow sticky pads and a pair of scissors. And we started cutting out little yellow arrows and sticking them on their big plan to locate the pumps and nozzles for the lazy river. And we we ended up with locating 43 little yellow arrows all around this.
That's a lot of sticky notes.
That's a lot of sticky. And the engineers reassembled, and they stood around the table and looked at this low-tech approach to propulsion. And they got their calculators out, and they were punching numbers, and they were nodding and grunting and grinding on this thing. And it turns out that we had come within, I think, just a couple of 100 gallons per minute propulsive force out of hundreds of thousands of gallons per minute of what they had calculated theoretically, we had put into kind of into black and white and yellow, if you will. And we ended up doing that with 43 pumps on that job, Jungala in Cancun. But they were kind of blown away that we took this sort of horse and buggy approach to coming out and achieving the same result, theoretical result that they had calculated. So that was a fun adventure for Phil and I.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you guys had to think outside the box. I mean, the thing was already built, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really great stories. I mean, I know you guys do a lot to support this industry. I mean, the past few years, you've been the primary sponsor for the $1 Million Pool Challenge. And this year's entry was pretty exciting. I mean, what'd you think of Brad Holly's Miami Vice inspired design?
It was a treat to work with through that process, to meet and work with some of those designers. I mean, these guys and women are extraordinary at what they do. It was our honor to give them what we felt was maybe an enhanced prize for their work, and to be able to get to know some of these folks and observe the really cool contributions they're making to our industry.
A really smart use of the theme elements. I mean, the design felt to me at least distinctly Miami. That suspended patio over the lazy river was definitely my favorite part of the design. It's exciting to see these designers step up outside of their comfort zone too. And I think the challenge, more than probably any other in our industry, does more to promote the art of pool and landscape design. And you guys are tremendous champions of that, providing the $10,000 grand prize that goes to the winners. So really, hats off to you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, it's been really great having you guys on the show with us today. And we're really big fans of the product. Thank you so much. Loved having you guys.
Our pleasure. Thanks for all your good work, Joe.
Yeah, Joe, thanks a lot. Remember, it's all about that water experience.
Well, that's all the time we have left today. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and we'll catch you next time on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast.
Today's episode of Pool Magazine Podcast is proudly sponsored by the PSP Deck Expo. The International Pool Spa Patio Expo, co-located with Deck Expo, is where all segments of the industry gather to stay well-informed of the latest trends, market directions, and technology. Come for the 135,000 plus square feet of products, suppliers, and education. And stay longer for networking, special events, and experiences. This year's Expo in Dallas will be held from November 9th through November 14th. To learn more about attending the PSP Deck Expo, visit us on the web at www.poolspapatio.com.